Hello everyone, we are going to discuss the introduction to histology, and we are going to focus on defining histology, state and describe different basic tissues, and discuss their structures, properties and function. Also discuss tissue adaptations. So tissue is a collection of cells with a similar origin, shape and function and structure. They provide cellular organization level extreme between the cells and organ systems. Organs are developed by combining the functional group of tissues. The study of tissue is called histology, and the study of disease related to tissue is referred to as histopathology. Tissue is composed of the cell and extracellular matrix. Within the extracellular matrix, we also have the interstitial fluid. Some of the characteristics of tissues are it's excitable. That means can generate action potential. That includes the muscle tissue and nervous tissue. Non-excitable characteristics, that is epithelial tissue and connective tissue, that can't generate action potential. We have 4 types of basic tissues: nervous, muscle, epithelial, and connective. So the embryonic origin of tissues. Tissues originate from 3 germ layers, which arise from the embryo and after the egg is fertilized and so forth. So the ectoderm and mesoderm and endoderm are the 3 layers. So epithelial tissues arise from the 3 layers. Muscle tissue arises from mesoderm, and nervous tissue arises from the ectoderm. So the ectoderm derives the muscle tissue. Both the three layers arise, the epithelial tissues arise from there, and the muscle tissue arises from the mesoderm. Epithelial tissue, they cover body surfaces. That is the ducts and the cavities. They are subdivided into 2, covering the lining epithelium and the glandular epithelials. And they are into 8 types. Have simple squamous epithelial tissue, that is has a 1 layer and flat. Simple cuboidal, 1 cubed or cubed layer of tissues, mostly lines the kidney. Simple squamous mostly line the alveoli of the lung, of the bronchi, the lungs. And the third one is the simple columnar, mostly lining the stomach. We have transitional epithelium that lines the bladder. Have the stratified squamous epithelium that lines the esophagus. Stratified cuboidal epithelium that lines the sweat glands. Stratified cuboidal, more than one layer. Stratified columnar, they lines the salivary glands. We have the pseudostratified columnar that lines the trachea. Epithelial tissues help in protecting the underlying body tissues from physical injuries and infections. They help in absorption of substances in the various parts of the GI and respiratory tract, help in secretion of various substances, mostly in the kidney, offer sensory surfaces for smell, promote transport of substances along the tissue surfaces. Epithelial tissue characteristics, that is consists of closely compact cells, has a minimal extracellular matrix. They are avascular, they don't have vessels. They rest on the basal lamina. They display polarity. They do not have high regenerative force. As you can see here, we have centrally placed nucleus packed together with minimal extracellular matrix. The apical surface and the basal lamina of the cell. Then we have the connective tissue that is connecting to the basal membrane that connects the epithelial tissue and the connective tissue together. The specialization of epithelial tissues. The apical surface adaptation has a microvilli, which are finger-like projection anchored by the microfilaments that increase the surface area for absorption, especially in the GIT. Stereocilia is elongated microvilli exist in bundles found in male genitalia, the gonus, the inner ear, for absorption and mechanical receptors. The cilias are filamentous projection anchored by the microtubules. They breathe in rhythmic to propel substances, as we discussed in our introduction lecture, and they are mostly found in the fallopian tubes. Keratinization is also an adaptation in the protein produced by epithelial cells. They are intermediate filaments mostly. They form a layer of dead material on the apical surface of the tissue, most found in the skin surfaces of the and some of the parts of the oral cavity that come in contact with food. Lateral surface adaptations has intercellular junctions, occluding junction or tight junction, help to prevent paracellular transport, like transport from one cell to another. Restrict tight junction. Then an adhering junction, desmosomes, they anchor adjacent cells together. Then communication junction, they allow free ionic movement from one cell to another, like from here straight to the other cell. The basal surface of the epithelial cells has semidesmosomes and also membrane enfoldings. It forms the covering and the lining epithelium forms the outer covering of the external body surface and the outer covering of the some internal organs like the stomach and the respiratory tract. They are classified according to the number of layers. We say it can be simple, it's one layer, stratified as 2 layers, and pseudo, that is unclassified layer. They are also classified according to shape of the apical surface: squamous, flat, cuboidal, that is cubed, and columnar, cylindrical. Are also type of apical surface according to this adaptation of their structure. That's microvilli. We can have cilia or striated. We can have keratinized epithelial cells. So we can discuss classification according to the lining of epithelium. Covering and lining of epithelium are classified based on the arrangement of layers. We said according to the arrangement of layers, we have simple, which has specialized for absorption and filtration with minimal wear and tear. It's a single layered. Stratified is many layered and found in the area with high degree of wear and tear. Pseudo is single layered but seem to have many layers. Based on the shape, we said squamous, flat or scale-like, cuboidal is cubed, columnar is tall, and cylindrical. Transitional combination of cell shape found where there is a great degree of distension or expansion. These may be cuboidal or to columnar, or cuboidal to polyhedral, or cuboidal to squamous. Just depends on if it's contracted or relaxed. As you can see here, the structures: cuboidal, they are cubed. You'll see their nucleus, they are like round on the middle. Then squamous, they are flat. You'll see their nucleus appear like flat. And columnar, they are cylindrical, but their nucleus are also at the center, mostly at the base area, arranged down. Then for the pseudo, it's unclassified. Like you'll think it's more than one layer, but it's one layer because each cell is attached to the basement membrane. Okay, simple squamous mostly are found in the endothelium of the blood vessel, mesothelium, body cavities, and also in the endocardium and lung alveoli. As you can see, we describe the type of tissue according to the apical surface. So the apical surface of this tissue here, we see they are flat cells, one layer. You can say this is the lung alveoli or so forth. Stratified squamous mostly found in renal tubules. And these are apical surface. You can see they are flat. They are flat cells. They are more than one layer, 1, 2. So it is stratified squamous, more than one layer of flat cells found in renal tubules, glandular epithelium, thyroid gland, exocrine also. Simple columnar, we said their cells are found most in the genital tracts, endometrium, endocervix, segments of the GIT, some segments of the GIT, mostly the rectum, some parts of the renal tubules, mostly the convoluted tubules, and some exocrine glands. And as we said, you can see this apical layer, like the nucleus are arranged like on the inferior side, on the bottom side of the cell. Then we have a free extracellular matrix here, but they're arranged in one linear line. For the stratified columna, it's more than one layer of cylindrical cells, mostly found in the conjunctiva, some ducts of the exocrine glands. Stratified squamous epithelium is divided into either keratinized, parakeratinized, or non-keratinized. So for keratinized, stratified squamous epithelium has thick keratin layer found on the epidermis. It's adapted to withstand friction, stratification, keratinization, and intercellular adhesions. Parakeratinized epithelium, they are mostly found in as thin patch layer of keratin found on some parts of the oral cavity that comes in contact with food particles. As you can see in this layer. Okay, keratinized squamous stratified squamous non-keratinized. That means it's not keratinized, but it's a squamous cell, has no keratin, found on the lining of the esophagus, some parts of the oral cavity that doesn't come in contact with the food, anus, found in vagina and ectocervix. We can see it here, more than one layer of squamous cells, but it's not keratinized. Then you go to pseudostratified. It's divided into either has goblet cells or without goblet cells, and stereocilia or without stereocilia. So the pseudostratified columnar epithelium with goblet cells, mostly found in respiratory cell, found on the lining of the major airways like nasal pharynx, larynx, trachea, and bronchi. You see the cilias? Yeah. And it's pseudo because it's one layer attached to this lamina, but like they appear like there are two layers, as you can see here. We check this apical surface. Pseudostratified columna without goblet cells. You can see it's kind of happening like it's a columnar cell with more than one layer, but no, all of them are attached to the same basement membrane. Found on the roof of the nose and has receptors for smell. Also called olfactory epithelium. Pseudostratified columnar epithelium with stereocilia. They look like bundles of, like the cilia they have been plated together, or they have been folded together. I can see on this surface. And it's columnar as we described. They appear like there are more than two layers of columnar cells, as you can see. They are majorly found in the male genitalia tract, that is epidermis and vas deferens. Transition epithelium, we said, mostly found in the bladder. During contraction and relaxation, the tissue will change. So stratified cuboidal epithelium, some of the apical surface cells are binucleated, like here. And on this top area, we'll see that their apical surface has like two cells. So they are squamous cells when stretched and cuboidal when contracted. Majority in the renal pelvis, renal bladder, ureter, and urethra. And this is a summary of it. Glandular epithelium, there are two types, endocrine and exocrine. Endocrine, highly vascularized, and the secretions of endocrine glands are called hormones. Hormones are released into the interstitial fluid, diffused into bloodstream, and delivered to targets, in other words, cells that have receptor to bind the hormones. The endocrine system is part of the major regulatory system coordinating the regulation of integration of body cells. So some of the endocrine glands are pituitary gland, thymus, adrenal cortex, and gonads. So we are going to focus mostly on exocrine glands, which release their coldness through a duct that leads to epithelial surface. They include mucus, sweat, saliva, and breast glands. They are avascular and have elaborate ducts. They secrete body fluids into the ductal system. Classification based on ducts, we can have simple tubular, we can have simple coiled, we can have compound. Classification based on secretion, you can have serous gland, we can have mucus gland, we can have seromucus gland. Based on how they release their secretion, marocrine, that is, the cell is intact. Like on this left side, you can see this image. It is doing marocrine secretion. The cell is intact, but the vesicles are coming out through exocytosis mostly. Cytosis mostly. Not to cytosis. The cells are just releasing like a gas or something. Golgi apparatus, Golgi complex, they are releasing it. The nucleus. Holocrine, there is a pinching of the portion of a cell in the secretion. That is apocrine. Then holocrine, there will be destruction of the cell. The whole cell will be destructed. So in the marocrine, the cell is intact, just diffusion of things across it. Apocrine, it will pinch off. For the part of the cell will be pinched off during the secretion. Holocrine, the whole cell will be distracted during secretion. So examples of marocrines, watery mucus. Examples of marocrine, they are mostly found in eccrine gland that produce the secrete sweats. We can have watery mucus containing the glycoprotein. Also use apocrine, example, sweat glands of the armpits. And holocrine, example, sebaceous glands that produce soils from the skin. So we said gland classification by product. Serous gland produce watery blood plasma-like secretion rich in enzymes such as alpha amylase. Mucus gland release watery to viscous product rich in glycoprotein mucin. Mixed exocrine glands contain both serous and mucus gland, releasing both types of secretion. We said we can classify according to the structure, that is unicellular exocrine glands composed of single cells, goblet cells found in the mucous membrane of the small and large intestine. Multicellular exocrine glands develop from a simple epithelium to form a secretory surface that secretes directly into an inner cavity. Mostly line internal cavities of the abdomen and chest, releasing secretion directly into the cell. Examples of multicellular exocrines have the simple glands, that is duct, single ducts, straight or coiled. So can be simple glands, that is single duct, that it is straight or coiled. Compound, that is divided into one or more branches, may consist of tubular glands, straight or coiled. Alluvial form pockets, or tubo-alluvial combines both pockets and tubes. So you can see this is simple alluviali form pockets, and this one forms tubes. Coiled, the pockets are branched and the tubes are branched, they are not coiled. So we can have compound where it contain all this. So connective tissue is used in connecting tissues and organs within the body. Connective tissue cells are dispersed within the matrix. So the cells also secrete a thin gel-like polysaccharides, which together with fibers make up matrix or ground substance. Matrix typically contains a substantial amount of extracellular matrix. The matrix major component is the ground substance that is often interwoven with protein fibers. So as you see in this image, have mesenchymal cells within the connective tissue. We have collagen fibers, we have blood vessels, collagen, ground substance, part of the matrix, macrophages, adipocytes, and fats, which are fat cells within the connective tissue, have an elastic fibers. Functions of connective tissue are to support and connect other tissues, to offer protection to delicate cells. Specialized cells within connective tissue also defend the body from invading microorganisms such as macrophages. We have transport of fluids, nutrients, waste products, and chemical messages is facilitated by specialized fluid connective tissues such as blood and lymph. Adipose cells store excess energy in the form of fat, contributing to the body's thermal insulation. All connective tissues originate from the mesoderm, as we said in the last episode. First connective tissues to develop are mesenchymes, the stem cell line from which all connective tissues later derive. Class of mesenchymal cells are scattered through the adult tissue, providing the necessary cells for replacement and repair after connective tissue is injured. Another type of embryonic connective tissue are found in the umbilical cord, also known as mucous connective tissue or Walton's jewelry, but it disappears after the baby is born. Okay. Classification of connective tissue is classified into three. We have proper connective tissue, supportive connective tissue, fluid connective tissue. And as proper connective tissue are divided into two. We have loose connective tissue and dense connective tissue. So under loose connective tissue have areolar tissues and adipose tissues. Under dense connective tissue, we have three divisions, that is tendons, ligaments, and white fibrous tissues. Supportive connective tissue, you have bone, that is compact bone and spongy bone, and also cartilages, that is divided into three: high-ledge cartilages, fibrocartilages, and elastic cartilage. And fluid, we have the lymph and the blood connective tissues. Fibroblasts are present in all connective tissues proper. Other fixed cells include fibrocytes, adipocytes, and mesenchymal cells. Macrophages, mast cells, lymphocytes, plasma cells, and phagocytic cells move in and out of the connective tissue cell. They are migratory cells, they are not resident cells. The resident cells, mostly they are fibroblasts, which are mesenchymal cells. Adipocytes also is part of the type of fibers. Connective tissue fibers, we have three types of connective tissue fibers: the collagen fibers, reticular fibers, and the elastic fibers. I can discuss a little bit about the functions of the cells in the connective tissue. So fibroblasts produce the extracellular matrix by secreting polysaccharides and protein that combine with the extracellular fluids to create a viscous ground substance. And also adipocytes store lipids as droplets in their cytoplasm. There are two types of adipocytes. We have white adipocytes, which store lipid as a single large drop, and brown adipocytes, which have multiple droplets of high metabolic activity. Another cells are mesenchymal cells, that is multipotent adult stems that can differentiate into various types of connective tissues for repair and healing. Macrophages, on the other hand, are large cells derived from monocytes. The other enter the connective tissue matrix from blood vessels. They are integral to the immune system, engulfing pathogens and cellular debris. As cells, they are migratory cells. So we also have mast cells that contain granules with histamine and heparin. Upon any irritation or damage, they are released, and inflammatory mediators that they release histamines and inflammatory mediators that cause vasodilation and increase blood flow to the injured site. So let's discuss about the collagen fibers, the connective tissue fibers, which are collagen fibers, elastic and reticular, as we said earlier on. So the three main types of fibers are secreted by fibroblasts, as we said, and are embedded in the ground substance. So collagen fibers made from fibrous protein subunits that form long straight fibers. They possess great tensile strength that resist stretch and other resilience and strength to ligaments and tendons. Elastic fibers composed of the protein elastin, which allows them to return to their original shape after being stretched or compressed, found in elastic tissue such as skin, ligaments, and ligaments of vertebral column. The collagen is mostly in the tendons and ligaments, the bones, and other things. Reticulars, on the other hand, are formed from the same protein subunits as collagen but remain narrow and are arranged in branching network. Primarily, they are found mostly in the reticular tissues of soft organs like the liver and the spleen. So, if we discuss connective tissue proper, we said it's dense or loose connective tissue, and the loose connective is found between many organs, acting to absorb shock and bind tissues together. It facilitates the diffusion of water, salts, nutrients to adjacent embedded cells and tissues, and they include adipose and areola, as we said. Adipose tissue is primarily consist of fat storage cells with minimal extracellular matrix, contained mainly in the capillaries, allowing rapid storage and mobilization of lipid molecules. White adipose tissue, the most abundant type, may appear yellow due to the carotene and related pigments from plant, food, serving, other things. Brown, on the other hand, is more prevalent in infants, specialized by thermogenesis, metabolizing stored fat to release metabolic heat. Another type of loose connective tissue is areola. Areola, we said it's less specialized, connecting all previously described cell types and fibers arranged in a random web-like fashion, and it fills spaces between muscle fibers, surrounds blood, and also lymph vessels. It supports organ in the abdominal cavity and also underlying most epithelial. The last type of loose connective tissue is reticular tissue, which is a mesh-like supportive framework for soft organs such as lymphatic tissue, spleen, and liver. Dense connective tissue, it's of higher concentration of collagen fibers than loose connective tissue, and it results in a greater resistance to stretching. But there are just two. We have dense, either dense or irregular. For the dense regular connective tissue, fibers are parallel to each other, enhancing tensile strength resistance to stretching in the direction of the fiber orientation. So ligaments and tendons they normally have these dense regular connective tissues. For the dense irregular, are arranged randomly, providing strength in all directions. These are mostly found in the dermis of the skin that are rich in connective tissues. Supportive connective tissue, there are two major forms of supportive connective tissue. We had cartilages. Cartilage has a distinctive appearance due to polysaccharides called chondroitin sulfates, which bind with the ground substance protein to form a proteoglycans. Chondrocytes, the cartilage cell, reside in spaces known as lacunae. The cartilage is encapsulated by a layer of dense irregular connective tissue called the perichondium, and it's avascular. That's why it doesn't heal faster. And types of cartilage, we say that there are hyaline cartilage, fibrocartilages, and elastic cartilage. So you can just peruse through the types a little bit. Hyaline cartilage, most common type with short and dispersed collagen fibers, and has a large amount of proteoglycans. We can see it most in the rib cage, nose, and at joint surfaces. For the fibrocartilage, it's tough, containing thick bundles of collagen fibers, and we can see them in the jaw joints and in the vertebral disc. The last one is elastic cartilage that has elastic fibers in addition to collagen fibers. And it's rigid with elasticity exemplified in the external ear. That is a cartilage. The bones are another type of supportive connective tissue, and the hardest connective tissue provides protection for internal organs such as structural and also structural support. For the internal organs, they are supported by the bones. For example, the ribs, the skull protects them, the brain, and so forth. So its rigid extracellular matrix largely consists of collagen fibers embedded within the ground substance, and it has hydroxyapatite, which is a form of calcium phosphate. So both the organic and inorganic components contribute to bones' unique properties. Without collagen bonds, the bones will be just brittle, and this makes it hard and dense. Osteocytes are also part of the bone cells. They reside in lacunae within the bone matrix. The bone, unlike the cartilage, is highly vascularized, allowing relatively quick recovery from injuries. We have two types of bones. We have compact, which is hard, and spongy, which is soft. But they are all just found within the same bones. We have some parts of the body that has spongy and others has hard bones, which are compact bone. Fluid connective tissue, we said there are two: blood and lymph nodes. Blood, of course, we have erythrocytes, that is red blood cells. White blood cells are also called leukocytes, platelets. The lymph contains a liquid matrix and white blood cells. The lymphatic capillaries are highly permeable, allowing large molecules and excess artificial fluid to go. Mostly, the lymph drains into the blood vessels, transporting absorbed fats from the intestine to the bloodstream, which could otherwise enter directly. So we can have these fluid connective tissues. Summary of the connective tissue: we said we have connective tissue proper, which is divided into loose connective tissue and dense connective tissue. We said loose connective tissue is further divided into reticular, areola, and adipose. And for the dense connective tissue, is divided into regular and irregular. Then we further have supportive fluid connective tissue, which is divided into blood and lymph. We have supportive connective tissue, which is made up of cartilages and bones. And we have other functions, like for blood, for clothes, circulatory, and other things. Thank you so much for listening. Any questions, you can just type them there. I'll be happy to answer, or you can put an addition on whatever you've discussed. Thank you.